Hi, this is Steve Palladino from Palladino Power Project, bringing you another video. This one here is not on a specific calculator within the SuperPower Calculator, but a review of the four options, soon to be four options, that we have for estimating FTP or CP. Um, Currently in version 4, there are three, and then we're adding one more in version 5. And I'll go into that in just a moment. These are the four that we have, and the two of them, the first two are monad based on the monad model, and they use test data. Um, the classic CP test, like a 310 test, or a multi-day protocol, say over a 1 or 2 week period where you're testing multiple different durations. Um, the second calculator works for that. Then we have the race data analytic calculator for uh, estimating FTP from race data, and that calculator is a Rigel model based calculator, and it's better for data, better for races that are 30 minutes or above for estimating FTP from those races. And then the one that we'll be introducing in version 5 is another monad based calculator that is applied to race data for estimating FTP and CP, but it's applied best for races that are less than about 30 minutes. So we have those four, and that gives you an ability to give you sort of a instant look, a slice in time look at where your FTP CP is in the conditions specific to those races. You also will have your model like Auto CP from Stride, or the WKO5 power duration curve, your Golden Cheetah power duration curve, and others. Those are multi-parameter models. But remember, these are giving you data from a 90-day database of all your runs over 90 days. And conditions change, fitness changes within those 90 days. You might have a little nagging little thing that causes you to miss a few days, whatever. Things change within 90 days, and including weather and heat and humidity. And if it gets hotter, you're not as necessarily going to be running as high of a CP as you were earlier in that 90-day period. The multi-parameter model is going to be based on the quality of the other data, not just your race or test data. So if you happen to have run a 5K and you hadn't tested other areas of the power duration curve, then the multi-parameter models may not be giving you an accurate estimate because it's using all the other data to sort out. Where if you drop that race right into one of the models here, you're going to get a little bit better instant slice of time what your FTP CP is in the conditions that you tested or raced in. That said, all of these calculators in the SuperPower Calculator have the capacity for doing condition correction. So if you want to, let's say you did a 5K and it was in 28, 100 meter altitude, 28 degrees centigrade or Celsius, and 90% humidity, but you normally train in different conditions, 22 Celsius and 75% humidity, you can convert whatever data, whatever the FTP CP estimate is, you could do that built into these calculators. So it not only gives you your FTP CP for the conditions in which the race or the testing was done, but it also allows you to convert it to the conditions that you normally train in. I think those are some important points. So let's go into the individual models or calculators. This one is one of the originals. It's basically the Monad model that is used for calculating FTP or CP from a CP test, from a single day CP test protocol, like a 3-minute, 10-minute protocol. So you, if you did a CP test on a single day, you're going to pop it into this calculator. You're going to hit the drop-down box on the SuperPower Calculator. There's going to be 4 options in version 5. Right now there's 3 of them, the first 3 in version 4. You're going to select that calculator if you did a CP test. If you're doing testing over multiple days, let's say it's probably best to keep it within a 2 to 3 week period, because otherwise your fitness changes and it's not necessarily a valid estimate. But if the testing is within 2 to 3 weeks, or let's say you run let's say you do like the virtual race where you do a 3,000 meter race, and then you do a 10,000 meter race, or you do a 5K race, and then you come back and you test 1,000 meters, a week later. That is this calculator. It's a Monad-based calculator where the maximal efforts are all on different days within about a 2 to 3 week period. If you've got that scenario, then you open up this calculator, drop down box, select that calculator, and that's the one you're going to use. This is another one that we've had around for a while. This is a Rigel model based calculator that takes your race data and allows you to estimate FTP CP. And this calculator has been there and being used for short duration race data, and it really doesn't work that well because people's reserve work capacity varies as you get into shorter and shorter durations. The reserve work capacity becomes more and more important, and so the Rigel model starts to fall apart as you start to go into shorter duration races. So this model works great, especially great between 30 minutes and 70 minutes, but it can be applied all the way up to a marathon and give you a pretty decent, valid estimate of your FTP CP. So longer than 30 minutes, you're going to use this calculator. And then this is the one that we're adding in version 5, or we hope to add in version 5. I've been using it for several months, and it works great. It's specifically designed for application to races less than about 30 minutes. So a 5K race, or a 3,000 meter, even a 1,500 meter race. I've done some of that data, and it works fairly well that way too. So this is a Monad-based calculator based on the Monad model, and it requires a reserve work capacity estimate. We help you out there. In fact, I want to go back one slide. In this Rigel-based model, it requires that you enter a Rigel exponent Well, if you know yourself well and you know rival exponents, you can enter which one works best for you for that particular race distance or duration. But we also have a rival lookup, which will take from our studies and apply a rival factor based on that information to your analysis. So if you don't know, we've got help in the calculator. And the same thing with this one. If you don't know your reserve work capacity because you haven't done a CP test, one of these tests up here in the last 2, 3, even 4 weeks, so you don't know your reserve work capacity, we have help for you. We've done the studies and have ranges that allow a pretty good estimate of your FTP-CP, even if you don't know this value. We have that help, which looks up reserve work capacity for you. So let's just sort of look at these and compare them. They're the 4 different models and methods. The first one is a monad-based model. It requires at least 2 power duration pairs. If you did 3 on the same day, that's fine. Let's say you did a 1 minute, 5 minute, and a 20 minute on one day. That's fine. The usual protocol most people go with is 3 minute, 10 minutes, sometimes 3:12, sometimes 3:15. But 2 power duration pairs are required. That's it. In the second one, again, 2 or more power duration pairs, maximal efforts, and they can be from multiple days over 2 to 3 weeks. The third one is the Rigel model that's been in there in the SuperPower Calculator. It is, you need 1 power duration pair, which is a race. It could be a time trial, but generally they're for races, but a longer time trial, greater than or equal to 30 minutes, that you just pop that data in and you need a Rigel exponent. So you need those 2 components to estimate FTP from this calculator. Again, we have the Rigel lookup. If you don't feel comfortable with your own finding your own Rigel exponent, we have the help there. In the last one, the one that we're going to release in version 5, is it requires 1 power duration pair. That's the race duration for a race less than 30 minutes. So 5K race, 3K race, 1,500 meter race. It'll work for all of those. But you need a reserve work capacity estimate. And if you don't have yours from a reliable source, like a recent CP test in the last 3 or 4 weeks, or something like WKO, which provides it, or Golden Cheetah, which provides it, if you don't have that, we have the help feature that I actually use. I use it all the time when working with people because I'm using population-based information on reserve work capacity to give me a range of FTP, CP estimate, which is pretty tight. And that's what I do. I use that. I use the help, the lookup function. It works great. So that's what you need for inputs for each calculator. For outputs for each calculator, with the first one, you're going to get an FTP estimate or FTP CP estimate and a reserve work capacity estimate. That it's going to shoot out both of those estimates for you. The second one, it's the same thing. It's going to produce 2 estimates. Whereas the last 2 are race-based calculators using your race data, long race, short race. It only produces your FTP CP estimate and doesn't give you a reserve work capacity estimate. So those are the outputs. In terms of validity, this is just off the cuff. This is me. This is not something that we've done hard numbers and studies on. But I would say that in terms of the validity of the estimate that you're getting, I would actually say method three. If you've run a race in the 30 to 70 minute range, um, that's probably going to be a 3.5. It's going to be more valid than a CP test. The FTP CP estimate is. So as you drift away, further away from the usual time to exhaustion for FTP, so you're estimating for a 2 hour race or a 4 hour race, you're estimating FTP off of that, then the validity falls back to something closer to a CP test. So CP test, high validity. You'd have to really screw up the execution to not have a good valid estimate. And then this race base for longer races usually gives a really valid, very, very good estimate, particularly if the race is between 30 and 70 minutes, 50 minutes plus or minus 20 minutes, basically. The calculator where you're putting multiple efforts from a 2 to 3 week period, in my experience, has been a little bit less on the spot in terms of the FTP and reserve work capacity estimate. Just look at the reserve work capacity. If it's really high or really low, usually it's really high with this. And that means the FTP estimate is, there's some cause for skepticism. But nevertheless, it's good. I mean, if you did really 3 good solid efforts over a period of 2 to 3 weeks, or even 2 solid efforts over a period of 2 to 3 weeks, you're going to get a good estimate. We're splitting hairs here. And then this last one here is a good estimate, a really solid estimate. It becomes better if you have a known reserve work capacity from recent testing. But if you use the range that we have, it's going to give you a good estimate. So don't take 2 stars as meaning it's bad. I'm trying to depict that these other 2 are going to give you really solid, concrete estimates, and these other the number 2, number 4, you should consider more of a range when you get those estimates. And then how does that compare to a multi-parameter model like AutoCP or WKO5 or Golden Cheetah? Well, those the validity, how good those estimates of FTP or CP are is dependent on how well optimized that model is. So you can have a FTP CP estimate which is really tight and better than any of these if you have a really good protocol where you're testing at 10 seconds and 1 to 3 minutes and or 5 to 8 minutes and 20 to 40 minutes on a regular basis. And then you could have a really good estimate here that might be a little bit better than these. But if you're not optimizing the model, then you can have an estimate that is just worthless, basically. It will be not even hold a candle to these other methods. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the 90-day pool of data, things change over 90 days, particularly temperature, humidity, and so forth. So these become more valid for current conditions. So again, you don't want to be a one-trick pony. If you have various options, use them and compare them against each other. so you could determine what's the best estimate for you. What's the best under the conditions you're going to be training in, which is the best estimate. So in summary, the SuperPower Calculator gives you 4 options for estimating FTP, CP from your key data, whether that data is from testing data or whether it's from racing data. There are 4 calculators, at least in version 5 there'll be 4. Right now there's 3 in version 4. There are 4 calculators that give you that option of seeing where you're at right now from that data. And you can compare it against the multi-parameter model and really have sort of a triangulation effect where you have multiple data points to triangulate on what's the best FTP, CP estimate for you. Thank you for watching. Look forward to seeing you for the next video, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.